Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be on the next stage of our retro review and we're going to be finishing the 1D segment of the comparisons. So we have got the 1D Mark IV and we're comparing that to the mighty 1DX. And what we're going to do first, as always, is go through the technical specs of both cameras, compare them side by side, then we look at some imagery, and then I'll talk you through what my opinions are on both cameras. So here we have the cameras side by side. We've got the 1D Mark IV on the right and the 1DX on the left. Now this is when there's a big jump in technology between the 1Ds, and they visibly got different, but also internally changed. So instead of having the range where you had an aps-h, a crop sensor and a full frame, they just went purely full frame. And also you got a lot more functionality and usability with the cameras. You've got the extra visibly, you've got your extra presetable buttons on the front on there instead of just the one here. And then you've got the difference in sensors. You've got your 16 megapixel sensor to your 18 megapixel sensor. It goes from 10 frames a second to 14 frames a second, or if you're on live view, 16 frames a second. So you've got a lot more usability with the cameras physically moving forward. And so with our full frame sensor, you've just got that. I find full frame does give you that little bit of extra quality. Personally, between the two, this is still a great camera. We'll look at the photos next, but still you do get a nicer image from the 1DX for sure. That's a guarantee. It's the newer version of the camera. You also had an upgraded battery you had to use for this model to allow you to get those frames, to get that more power through the system. But the physical size isn't too much difference. It is slightly bigger, but the way everything is, the way your main usable buttons are, where they're placed and everything, is absolutely fine. It's not the end of the world. If we look at the top of the cameras, go here, so all your mode buttons and everything all where you'd expect them to be. The 1DX is slightly taller looking in front on, but you've still got all your normal light buttons here. You gain a white balance button on your 1DX, but like the dials and everything is where you'd expect it to be. So it's really easy to go from the Mark IV to the 1DX and just know where everything really should be. When we're looking on here, we'll look at the side I/O as well, and you do gain a few bits. You got your HDMI, digital stuff. You get a little bit more separation between everything. Your network as well, which I've never used, but apparently is used quite a lot by the pro guys. You've got this slot here which you connect to a Wi-Fi dongle to, so you can send your images off while you're taking photos. It's overall, it's the same stuff, just better spread out, and you get a full-size HDMI socket rather than a mini one, so it's less likely to break and all those sort of things like that. But yeah, much of the muchness on the side of the I/O there. And then if we look at the back of the cameras, we'll get them in frame here. You get a slightly bigger screen, so you can see the images slightly better. You do gain your live view button, which is here on the 1DX, and that basically gives you a mirrorless camera, a very early mirrorless camera. You have to use a screen. The mechanical viewfinder doesn't work at all, so you have to use a screen to use that, so it's quite awkward to use sometimes. You gain your Q button, which is really useful when you want to quickly change settings or look at settings on the big screen. Card wise, get both open here. You go from having a compact flash and an SD to twin compact flashes on the 1DX, which was really useful because then you just buy the same card and always have loads of the same cards in your bag. But everything else, like the menu and everything, is very similar. They obviously moved these buttons up across here to give you a bit more separation between the screens, and you've got your LAN light button on there as well, just if you connect in by that network port. But say the fit and feel, the top hat's is changed on here, and you gain a second one down here, because see the camera is physically deeper to allow a few more settings in it. It is actually really nice having that second top hat. The amount of times I've used that when I'm using my AF points, and I've just used that just to kind of get there quickly to where I'm going. It's a little bit longer winded with the Mark IV, because I've got to go up here, you've got to use that dial and that dial to move them up and around, almost like a bit of a Tetris game. But yeah, big difference moving over. Physical, like where everything is, it's like home, you know where everything is, but everything's sort of slightly moved and slightly better. So there are the two cameras side by side. What we're going to do now is look at some imagery taken with both cameras and compare them side by side. So here we have the first image. I've kind of tried to group these into sort of different categories. So birds in flight I've got together, and then posing and all that sort of stuff. So the first one here is obviously birds in flight. You've got the 1D Mark IV on the left, 1DX on the right, and both photos look really nice, sort of sharpness wise and everything. But if you look on the 1DX and zoom in, it is definitely ever so slightly sharper. It's got that slightly better sensor on it, I think, which allows just it to be able to capture just that little bit more detail, and it is really nice there. The colours are really nice as well. You'll see from the next imagery that the colours on the 1D Mark IV are also very nice, but out of these two here, the 1DX definitely has the edge over the 1D Mark IV. Next one here, I managed to get both birds doing a dive, not obviously in the same angle annoyingly, but still good. Like, again, both great images in sharpness wise. The imagery is nice, you get nice details on both of them. On the feathers, they've got this really nice sort of hash sort of design to the feathers almost, really, so when you do get a nice sharp imagery, they draw those out really nicely. Again, it's slightly more detail on the 1DX, but it's not as noticeable in this photo, just because of what birds they are. But again, both really usable. You'd never be disappointed with either image if you want to do either image that the camera is going to perform for you. It's going to be more than usable. And we've got some posing imagery here as well. What I would actually say from this one is the colours actually look slightly nicer on the 1D Mark IV in these two images. So both have got orange beaks, and you can see the orange is a little bit more vibrant on the 1D Mark IV than it is on the 1DX. Both again very usable imagery, but I do think in this circumstance anyway, both same light levels, same lens, you are getting a slightly brighter image. Sometimes that's not always what you want, depending on what you're taking photos of, but in this circumstance you have got that nicer, brighter image from the 1D Mark IV. So that's everything there we looked at between both cameras, and as you can see, they both perform as expected by a once top tier level of camera. Now obviously if you're buying the 1DX, you are going to get that slightly better image quality, but it's still good to see the old workhorse of the 1D Mark IV still provides you with that really good image quality, and build quality is a rugged thing that you could throw around, hit people with, and you wouldn't have to worry about damaging it at all. It is also obviously the last of the crop sensor 1Ds, so for that reason as well it gets a little bit of kudos, just because you do get that little bit extra reach before you have to use any extenders. So that has been useful in the past for me. Now I just use extenders and use the sort of full frame cameras, so the 1DX Mark II and the R3. But yeah, it's fun going back to these cameras. Let's say this was my primary for a year, then I bought this, then it became my secondary, and then this has now done over 500,000 shutters, almost 600,000 shutters now, and it's still working as good as the day I bought it. It's looking very beaten up now, but is looking really good. I'm going to try and get this to 1 million shutters at some point when I've got a bit more time on my hands. But yeah, if you bought either one of these cameras, you definitely wouldn't be disappointed. You'd be super happy with the image quality you get from either one of them, because they both just work in the same way. And once you're used to how a 1D works and the nuances and where all the buttons are and everything, it doesn't really matter which 1D you pick up. You're always going to be able to use it and get a good image from it. It's just that learning curve of going from potentially automatic settings on something like came from a 7D Mark 1 to a 1D Mark 3, and there was a huge learning curve. You know, it's something you've got to consider, and you've got to put the time in to learn the camera and how to get the best out of the camera. And if you're willing to do that, you can pick up any of them. The 1DX, when you pick these up now for £700 or whatever, that is an incredible camera for that money, and you would not be disappointed. Equally, these are about £400. You're going to get that crop sensor. It's not quite as far as an APS-C. You only get 1.3, but it does give you that little bit of boost on there. But you do have the more megapixels on the 1DX. You can just crop in a little bit neater. And for me, what the big thing was, having the same cards in each slot made that my life way easier. When I was traveling, I didn't have to take 2 sets of different cards. I just had to buy the same cards and bring them with me. And just how fast this thing is incredible. The live view works a little bit better than the sort of basic live view you have on here, and it just does allow you to use the camera up. If you've got, I've shot a few times over fences to get photos of different animals in different zoos and stuff like that, and I have been able to get the shot by using the screen, which you can't really do with some of the older cameras. So this does bring it back into that slightly more into the 21st century. You do also have 4K recording on here. It's very basic 4K recording, so it's not the best. If you want recording, you can obviously get the 1DC, which is the same camera. It's just got all the video functions crammed into it as well. But yeah, for the money, if you can afford it, go for the 1DX. If you can't afford the 1DX, you won't be disappointed with 1D Mark IV. It's way better than the Mark III, a huge step up from that camera, and I've never had any focusing issues with this camera or this camera. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please subscribe, comment and like, and we'll get this channel growing nice and quickly. We've been doing very well on subscribers recently. I think we've gained, the last 5 days, 50 subscribers. So the channel is growing quicker than it ever has before, and that is all thanks to you guys watching the content, subscribing, sharing, commenting, everything you guys do, and I am forever thankful for that. So hope to see you in the next one. See you again soon. Goodbye.